Today, I want to talk about the Goldilocks training rule. And that may seem silly to think about a children's book helping you slay the turnover dragon and increase profits to levels maybe you've never seen, and to finally start building the type of business, the type of organization you want. For those of you who don't know the story of Goldilocks, it's a story of a little girl, and she is somewhere out in the woods. I'm not sure why she's out in the woods or why she's out in the woods alone, but she is. She goes to the house of three bears. And in that house, the first thing she does is they have made some porridge and they have let that porridge cool. And she goes to the first bowl of porridge and it is way too hot. It burns her tongue. Then she goes to the second bowl of porridge and it's cold. Nobody likes cold porridge. Yuck, right? And she goes to the third bowl of porridge and it is just right. Then she's like, that was pretty good. I had a full belly full of porridge. And like many of us, like this bear particularly, you want a nice, comfortable chair, right? After you've had your porridge. Think about after Sunday dinner, right? She goes to the first chair and it's uncomfortable. And then she goes to the second chair and that one's not comfortable either. Maybe a little too small and just not right. And she goes to the third chair and it fits just perfectly. And she's like sitting in that chair, relaxing. And then pretty soon you've relaxed in the chair, you've had your porridge, and then you need a little nap, right? She goes to the beds and she goes to the first bed and it's way too big and it's just uncomfortable. She's swimming in it. And then she goes to the second one. And if you've ever been in a bed that's too small, your feet are popping out the end. And maybe you've cuddled with one of your kids when they can't get back to sleep or they have a nightmare. You lay in there, your calf on down to your feet are out, no blankets, you're freezing, it's miserable. So the second bed for Goldilocks isn't good. And so finally then she finds the third bed and it's just right. Then she's just comfortably sleeping and all of a sudden the bears come back and they're mad and they end up coming in the house and she gets startled and she runs off, and according to the story, they never see her again and she never goes there again. As we think about this in the process of turnover, the training portion is where people begin to feel out whether they're comfortable somewhere, whether they can do the job they need to do, and how to do that. And if you mess this up, just like Goldilocks, they're going to run away and never come back. All that money you've invested in the recruiting phase and the initial onboarding, that's all going to go by the wayside, and you're going to be back to square one trying to get those people into your organization. Specifically, as we think about Goldilocks, a lot of the stuff she found was either too hot or too cold, too big or too small, just not comfortable. And it's the same thing with training. What I find is the amount of training we do, we have to hit that just right sweet spot. Specifically, the way I see it is, and this is how it played out in my business, as we bring someone on board, right? If we give them too little training, if we just bring them in and say, this is the job, it's like giving them too cold porridge. It just doesn't taste good and they're not quite sure what to do. And you know what happens pretty quickly? If you just throw them into the deep end of the pool with no life preserver, no training, no swimming ability, they're going to drown. They're going to be no use to your company. I find that a lot of companies just throw people in without enough training, so it doesn't work out. But the second problem is that people get trainer help or trainer subsidy too long. If you have a trainer for too long, you begin to think, there's no way one person can do this because I've been with Tom the trainer for the last 2 weeks and it's taken Tom the trainer and myself both to do this job. So there's no way I can do this myself. Now, I've seen this play out in my own businesses, but I've also seen this play out with my special needs brother, Tony. Tony, because he's special needs and is in certain programs for people with developmental disabilities, he has had many trainers over the years. He went to one place, it was a hotel. He had a trainer for a very short period of time, and then he was expected to do this like 7-page list of things in the hotel, and he has limited reading ability, and he just couldn't do it, and it stressed him out. And then his boss was mad. Tony, why aren't you doing this? But he just didn't get properly trained. He wasn't able to do it. And pretty quickly he washed out of that job. Then he's also had other jobs where he had a trainer for way too long. He had a trainer at one job for 2.5 months. He got pretty happy only doing a third or half, or maybe a little more than half the job, while the trainer did the other half the job. But that became his routine. He began to believe he could only do part of the job and he needed the trainer to do the rest. He never ramped up to full productivity. After 2.5 months, the trainer left and he couldn't get it rolling enough to do the whole job. The employer said, we put 2.5 months of training into this kid and he still can't get the job. So you're fired. All that time, think about 2.5 months of training and he went by the wayside. You have got to figure out in your business how long to train people. In our cleaning business, we had a very simple rule. By the end of 1 week, we wanted that person fully trained up. We did a 20, 40, 60, 80, 100% rule, meaning on a 5-day work week, on day one, we were only expecting roughly 20% output from that person. And the other 80% of the job was being done by other people, including the trainer. Then on day two, we doubled the amount of stuff we'd taught them that they were doing, and all of a sudden they're doing 40% of the job. And then on day three, they're doing 60% of the job, day four, 80%, and day five, finally close to 100%, maybe not quite 100%. But what we found was if we threw them in and we said in 1 day or 2 days, you need to do this whole thing, they were overwhelmed. And when people get overwhelmed in the training process as you're onboarding them, they're going to quit. But on the other hand, just like Tony, we found that if we stuck a trainer with them too long, they began to think, this is impossible. I have a trainer and me, and it's taken two of us to do this job. There is no way I can get through all of that on my own. We realized you need to subsidize the amount of work that's going to be done for a period of time. And for each business, that's going to vary. But the thing I want you to do as an employer of choice is I want you to really actively work at that process and garner feedback from your employees. Maybe you're holding their hand too long, or maybe you're not holding their hand long enough. This is the Goldilocks Principle. When it comes to training, you want to get it just right. You don't want to come in too hot, but you don't want to come in too cold. And if you do, good things will happen. Now, final note, going back to the Goldilocks story, sometimes we let that person have the keys to the castle, right? And we let them then do their thing and they're feeling their way. And Goldilocks was in that house feeling pretty good. She tried some things that didn't work and some other things that didn't work, but she'd found those sweet spots. The bears came in and they were all riled up and they were carrying on, causing a ruckus, and they scared Goldilocks. I see that with training where we get someone settled in and we think we have it just right. And then we come back, maybe something small or maybe even large goes awry. And we come in like a thundering herd of bears. And we're like, this wasn't right. And I thought we trained you better. You need to do this better. You know what they do? They freak out. And they're like, I don't like this place. They're scared of me. They bail. And then guess what? You are out of a person. So as you begin to train people, I want you to actively work on the Goldilocks Principle. I want you to work on getting it just right. Not too hot, not too cold, but make that employee comfortable. Make them feel like they fit in the bed, they fit in the chair, and the porridge you have created for them is perfect. Thanks for joining me today on the SuperPumped Business Podcast. If you want help with any of the process of recruiting, onboarding, or retaining your employees so that you make more profit and increase your retention, hit me up. I'd love to talk to you. I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me today on the SuperPumped Business Podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, I have 2 quick next steps for you. First, subscribe or follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. And second, jump on over to superpumped.com to find out all the incredible ways we can help you launch your SuperPumped business. Keep well, and I'll see you next time.